Hello, I call this meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. We have all of us here tonight, Nick Poloni, Ted Gergen, myself, Dana Powers, Steve Brown, and Jack Nicolai. And we have Marquez, Vicky, Christy. Are you in here at a capacity or just, okay. And that's it. And please make sure that you signed in by the door. And join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I have a motion on the agenda?
So moved.
I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Awesome.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. President's report, I have nothing to report. Easy peasy. Steve?
And I have nothing to report with regard to
Meeting forward.
correspondence.
Any CISA 2 updates?
No, I was at the last meeting, and all the school districts that are part of CISA 2 have paid their due, have paid their annual fees, which is nice, including Salem, of course. So that's all I have.
Sounds awesome, thank you. Committee, we have the personnel committee. How do you want to handle these? So we just review at our leisure, or do we comment on what happened at how do you want to?
We could, if you want to comment on how it went, or unless we just want to approve the minutes that were in there.
It went really well.
Okay, there you go.
Was it really, yeah, it was
It was
very
a
thorough,
great meeting.
ridiculously
Thank you,
good
Marcus, for
meeting.
leading that
Yes,
conversation through.
it was very good. Motion on the
I
minutes?
move to approve the minutes of the Personnel Committee dated September 7th, 2022 as printed or amended.
Wait, we can't do that because there's only 2 of us in the meeting.
Yeah, I don't think we approved those, right?
You don't have to approve them.
I think you just do a synopsis of it. If you want to.
Okay,
Just high-level agenda items.
Sure.
You can give us the finance one too, because a lot of stuff in finance is in that.
Oh, there was some crossover, but there was
3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Okay, let me remind myself and
You
then,
wanna do?
Yeah, I
Ted might
think
piss
I
me
think the
off.
highlights of the meeting essentially were kind of talking about some of the personnel issues that we face as a district in terms of hiring and retaining high-level employees, and some of the struggles that come with it as they relate to some of the financial issues that we talked about this evening. So, and then kind of like what the long-term plan might look like in terms of salary, compensation, benefits, structures, to help kind of like allow us to sustain a great institution without this financial and like this looming financial cliff that we keep talking about and we keep hearing about, and the unknowns of the state budget.
When was the last time the Personnel Committee looked at and examined the hourly salaries for paraprofessionals?
extremely regularly.
Yeah, so that's always part of the negotiation process. So that's
Yeah.
something
I
that
know,
we, yeah.
and I mention that because I've had several members of our community who are paraprofessionals who just had asked that question, so.
Yeah, I think the last time would have been,
Last,
when did we do negotiations?
December.
November, December?
yeah. This year though, we'd like to do it sooner in November
Yes.
because we got pushed back because of the insurance renewal last year.
Yeah, so that's part of the negotiations every year.
But we negotiated in December last year or early January, but we have also had ongoing conversations in terms of like
Benefits.
benefits and retention, like some of the same conversations that we've had with our contracted staff.
Well, don't we look at steps and ladders every so often too with regards to hourly staff and?
That's usually with negotiations too.
Okay, so.
Yeah,
okay.
kind of all in that. And which is why, and that was another thing we talked about at the meeting too, is the insurance, getting that on a fiscal, or however we call it, yeah. So it was good in that we were able to have a really candid conversation, including Vicky and her ideas, getting her caught up to speed, and then I could tell that Marquez felt more empowered to be a part of the conversation and really offer his opinion too, which is huge. I mean, that's what we want. Yeah, that's literally why you're here. But really just being able to dive into the verba and whatever else I was calling it then. It was just a really good meeting.
I think what I appreciated most is like the true strategic thinking, right? Like we've all talked about like when we were looking for Vicky and Marquez both of like that out of the box visionary type of thinking. And I think that really came through in that conversation.
Yeah, it wasn't just let's do this, it's what other districts are doing. It's talking about how can we set our district to be the best from a personnel standpoint with these little things that make a big difference, if that matters. And that's a huge deal. So, and I know next steps, you guys had a ton of stuff to look into and do, so you just let us know when you're ready to.
You're gonna hear a lot about it next month, actually.
Can't wait. I'll put it on my calendar. Okay, so that's good. And then we'll go right into Ted, the treasurer.
Sure, let's take a look at the treasurer's report dated August 2022. I'll take a look at the balance in each of our accounts. So general fund cash account with a balance of $505,040.03. Credit cards, a balance of $1,907.78. EBC Flex and HRA cash account, $12,728.48. Capital Improvement Fund, $446 with $4,828,884.18. Petty cash for $300. LGIP with a balance of $1,923,707.05. And then WISC or Fund 49, $36,782,893.08. So that's a grand asset total of, for August 2022, $44,055,460.60. I move to approve the treasurer's report dated August 2022 as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
I
Opposed? Motion carries.
do have a quick note on the treasurer's report, just so you'll notice next month, and Marquez shared this with me, that Fund 49 will have a decrease next month by $18.3 million. That sounds crazy, right? Like, whoa, it's gonna be half of that next year, because that bond anticipation note that we approved in August will be paid off, or was paid off on the 14th of September. So that's just something to, as you're wondering next month.
Good to pay that, huh? How come you didn't make me sign that? See, that would be a good thing.
I think you did sign off on it
I did already.
a couple months ago.
Okay.
It's probably not as fun. Like, you don't have a checkbook that
anticlimactic.
you're writing an 18, and now it's all computerized.
Especially
That'd be
those
a
big
real big
checks.
check.
It'd be hard. Plus, to write it all out.
All right, we'll take a look at.
It's definitely something I set up on the calendar, reminder like weeks in advance, and like can't
Oh,
forget
we
this.
know you do, Marquez.
You should take a selfie when you do it and show it to be like, this is what life was like. Okay, too far.
When I wrote an $18 million check. All right, we'll take a look at the, I'd like to present the payment of accounts payable bills dated August 1st through August 31st of 2022. These include checks numbered 71265 through 71308 and 2022000057 through 222300008, for a total of $544,901.67. There was one check last month, 2022000059, that appeared in the July report. So if that jumped out at you, that's why.
Only 2 pages of Amazon. I don't know. Seems a little
Seems low,
small.
right?
Well, it was only August, so most of
Okay.
yeah.
I look forward to next month.
So again, the total for checks is $544,901.67. Like to move to approve the payment of accounts payable bills from August 1st through the 31st of 2022.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Expense.
Oh, yep. That's me.
Oh, you didn't drop it in there.
Unbelievable.
That's all right. No, that's.
no, so I'll go over
Nothing
it.
in shame, no
We can
shame,
just pull
no
it.
shame.
We can click it.
We just pull it.
It's on the agenda.
Yeah.
It's on the agenda. Just give you a quick little overview of the revenue and expense report. So obviously at this point in the year, we've only received 0.25% of our revenue. Our big sources are property taxes and state aid, which we don't start getting the property taxes till January, and we don't get our first state aid payment until September. So you'll see a small bump next month. To put in perspective, at this time last year, we had received 0.21%, so we're actually 0.04% ahead of last year, but still, and that's mostly due to higher interest rates. And then on the expense side, we've spent 5.36% of our expenses through August. Most of that's coming from salary and benefits. We did have the air handling unit that was paid back in July. That was a significant expense, but that was coming out of ESSER. We did have some technology purchases for replacement of staff desktops and interactive touch displays for the classrooms. And then we did have higher health insurance premiums compared to last year, so that explains the 1.76% increase over this time last year. So, there's not much to talk about with revenues and expenses this early in the school year, but as we get on, we'll see how it goes.
Thank you. Minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes of the regular school board meeting dated 8/23/2022 as printed and or amended.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And public comments. I have, I'm assuming PRA, you're not actually a public comment. You're part, okay.
They're on items.
I know, that was, you threw me off a little bit. I was like, what are you gonna say? I do have Nicholas Kurtz, okay. Just, you do have 3 minutes. You need to be respectful, not mention any names. Oh, sounds like you know the drill. Okay, go ahead. Oh, and you do need to start with your name and address.
Absolutely.
And you, yep, absolutely, stand right there.
All right.
Yes, by the podium. Hi.
My name is Nicholas Kurtz. My address is 8701 Antioch Road, apartment 211 here in Salem. I am the father of 2 children here in the school, a kindergartner and a 3rd grader. I wanted to address an issue that is important to me, specifically what I see as Title IX reform adoption in this school under multiple policies. Specifically gender identity under anti-harassment, non-discrimination, and bullying policy. I want to, in this instance, primarily refer to the bullying policy. This theory that a person can determine their gender in their thoughts and impose it on others is a gross perversion of an infringement on civil rights. Under your own policy on bullying, gender identity could be observed as just so. In your policy, it says bullying may be a repeated behavior and involves an imbalance of power. Clearly, power has been given to theory of gender identity to impose its will upon all students without consideration to established truths and long-term scientific study. To me, this clearly represents just such an imbalance of power that applies to your bullying policy. Furthermore, this is directly from the policy, furthermore, it may be serious enough to negatively impact a student's educational, physical, or emotional well-being. Gender identity theory can easily be seen as an affront to all 3 of these. This theory certainly undermines truths essential to dialogue needed to maintain educational well-being. Children are having their physical well-being attacked through gender reassignment therapy and surgery. Studies are split as to whether happiness or suicide are the more likely outcome of these procedures. You may consider deciding your gender in your mind using feelings or delusion to be a positive to emotional well-being. Having to walk on eggshells to consider every pronoun each individual may want to use to be addressed with, in my opinion, is quite emotionally draining. This theory, as opposed to the standard system we as humans have used in some form for thousands of years, seems tragic. I see this as quite literally an attack on freedom of speech afforded Americans under the First Amendment under the guise of harassment and bullying. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. And I assume nothing was submitted online? Okay. All right, action items.
Shared service agreement?
So this is a recurring action item that we have every year around this time. So currently we share our occupational therapist Donna J with, in the past it was been with Paris School District. This year we added Brighton. So she's spending for Paris she's spending 2 days a week there, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 1 hour and 15 minutes each Tuesday and Thursday. So they only have, I think, 1 or 2 students that receive services. So she's there providing, they only have 1 or 2 students each one, so that she's providing those services. They could contract out with CISA, but instead they reach out to us for a shared services agreement. So at this point in time, we create an estimate of the costs. So we're looking at her salary, all of her benefits, the mileage, all those costs. And then looking at the amount of time that she's spending over at Paris and Brighton, we create an estimate. We kind of lay it all out in this 66.0301 agreement. And then at the end of the year, we look at what the actual costs were. So, because we don't know what the salary increase is, we don't know what the health insurance increase is. So then I look at what was actually spent, what was her time spent there, and then I readjust it. But this initial service agreement is just an estimate of the total amount of cost. So for the first district we have is Paris. So for Paris School District, the total cost, she's spending 6% of her time there, which comes out to $7,270.22. We do also have a small administrative fee for the amount of time that it takes to create the agreement, do all the calculations, and send it back and forth, which is also included in that amount. So just bringing that to you for approval for the contract with Paris, and then on the next slide, I'll go over Brighton as well.
Motion to approve shared service contract with Paris School District for occupational therapy services for the 2022-2023 school year.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And then with Brighton, I should mention that these are both occurring on the same days, Tuesdays and Thursdays, so she's not, wasting so much time driving back and forth. So the same days of the week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and they're also both in the morning at the start of school. So she's not starting here, driving there, coming back. So she's starting at, can't remember if she starts at Paris and then goes to Brighton, or Brighton and then Paris, but trying to make it as efficient as possible. So she's spending 1 hour and 30 minutes a week over at Brighton School District, which accounts for 4% of her time. With the administrative fee, that comes out to $4,969.48, and that's the total estimate at this point. And so we're just looking for a motion to approve that contract with Brighton as well.
Move to approve shared services contract with Brighton School District for occupational therapy services for the 2022-2023 school year.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm assuming it's considerably cheaper to do this than them going to CISA directly.
Correct. And for us, we do have a little bit of time that it's not really impacting our services, so it's covering part of her salary from our end. So
That works out nicely.
it's a win-win for both of us, I think.
All right, so in your packet, on the link, you have the actual report that I wrote with this. But I'm just going to briefly talk about Lexia Core 5 and Power Up. So just the background, I know we keep talking about SR3 funds, that we typically want them to be one-time only funds. And so as you'll see, have a plan for long term on how we can evaluate the process of this. But in that, there is a requirement that we use some of those funds, a portion of it, to address the academic impact of lost instructional time. Also, just doing an audit of the district, there are resources that our families need and our teachers need in order to provide more, like a more balanced approach to instruction for Tier 1 in the classroom. This is similar to, so Lexi, what I'm talking about right now, it's similar to Dreambox for math. If you recall, Dreambox Math is an adaptive online program that our students now can access at home. So some may be learning on accessing it now. In my next focus for families, I'll send a little blurb out on how families can have their kids go on Clever and access that resource. Our teachers, they had a training on it yesterday, and they loved it. We have teachers in their classrooms already utilizing the program, and they love it. So it's really like a plug and play program, and Lexia is similar to Dreambox, very high evidence-based program. So when I do any type of culling through any of the programs that we currently have, Christy and I were looking at a program and kind of evaluating a separate program. We look for evidence on, we don't look at the vendor reports on how the program works. We want to look at peer-reviewed studies, like in blind reviews. So you've got a control group, and then you have a really good sample size, and you're looking at that. So both Dreambox and Lexia and all the programs that we'll ever bring into the district, we want to make sure that they're evidence-based. So Lexia is it would be like the literacy version of what Dreambox is. It's not, Dreambox has a literacy side, but it hasn't been around long enough to have enough evidence for me to want to present that to you tonight. But Lexia does have a strong evidence-based backing program with it. It's adaptive like Dreambox is. It's a little bit of that plug and play. And so my plan is we have a 2-year contract. My recommendation is that we do 2 years. And the reason we would use the ESSER funds for this, because it's a bigger chunk, this first portion at $22K. But the first year, it would give staff time to be trained in it, to read the data and understand it while the students are using it. So it is a plug and play. They can do it at home. Families can access the program. That will be something, if it is approved, I would also do a quick video on go on Clever. Here's how they can get on Lexia. So while staff are learning the program, how to read the data, the second year, it would be more of a blended learning component where students could be in a center and the teacher has looked at the data from Lexia or PowerUp. PowerUp is the middle school version. And then they are responding to those, how students are doing independently in a way that it's not disrupting any of the learning. So by the following year, when I think about our ESSER funds, we won't have that in 24. We're at the end of that. So we will look at all the usage of this. And I was sharing in the finance committee earlier on all these programs. Some of the usage will be a non-negotiable for teachers. So if we're saying one of our programs is a Tier 1 resource and the efficacy on the program says they need to be on it at least 15 minutes a day, my expectation is we're going to see at least 15 minutes a day in order for us to say, is there a Tier 2 or a Tier 3 concern? So that will be a non-negotiable. However, if I start to see that we're not seeing the rate of improvement in student populations, and that's why we're pulling back some of the usage, that will be where we may not need to renew for the entire district. We may just renew for, let's say, whatever the grade level that we find it to be most efficacious in Salem. So in addition to looking at evidence from other studies, we are going to do action research here. So based on that, looking ahead, we would just do 1-year renewal basis, it's a smaller amount that we could absorb for the district. So that's my presentation.
I have a question. The adaptive nature of the program, most adaptive programs that I've seen adapt to the individual who's on the program at the time. Is there an adaptive control factor that would allow you to sort of tell the program, well, we're getting a little weak in this area. We want to make sure that everybody is sort of getting what they need. So rather than just adapting to the person in front of the computer, there's also an aspect of the program that's saying, we got to push a little bit of this stuff too.
Yes.
Because our tests are showing that we're maybe lagging behind a little.
And I appreciate you asking that question because both Dreambox and Lexia have that capability, which that's part of the reason why I want the year one for teachers to be able to figure that out. So certainly I don't want to slow students down because there's an acceleration piece to all of this. So if students are ready just to keep moving on and going, absolutely. But there are instances where it could be a standard that we're finding in the classroom that 80% of our students are struggling with. The teachers can route or assign like these pathways in Lexia, same way they would in Dreambox, and say we're going to focus on this standard for a little bit longer because we need more support in that. So they can push a pathway to all the students to kind of do a reteach.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I like that.
Motion to approve the Lexia Core 5 Reading Power Up Literacy Contract for 4K through 8th grade at $22,350, which will give Salem unlimited licenses for 2 years.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, so we saw a little snafu in the calendar. So if you notice, the 4K 5-day conferences are scheduled for Election Day, and so we are concerned, some of our staff are concerned that it would impact. So, okay, they would like to know what date you would prefer, the 9th or the 15th? And you have to make a motion on it because this is actually in the calendar, so.
Would it be advantageous to put it farther away or make it closer?
These were the two that they were open to.
So it would be a Wednesday on the 9th probably, right? Because Election Day is on a Tuesday always. So I'd say closer to because it's easier to plan for them. I'll make a motion and see what happens. How about that?
The 15th, I think you have a strategic planning.
Is that a Thursday?
That's Tuesday. I just have Salem School Board meeting on my calendar. I don't know. It's not our board meeting. Oh yeah, it might be.
Oh, because of like
It's not strategic
Thanksgiving,
planning.
holidays,
It's not strategic planning. I know that. All those are on Thursdays.
Okay, then it must be our board meeting because of Thanksgiving.
Our meeting is the 20th.
No, you moved it earlier, yeah.
Earlier. Okay.
Didn't get deleted possibly.
It totally could be.
Yeah, all right.
I just have
mean,
Salem
it's
School
the
Board
9th.
meeting on that day.
Okay.
I move to change the district's calendar to reflect the conferences for 4K, 5K events scheduled on November 8th will now be held on November 9th.
So moved. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That was exciting.
I have our board meeting on the 22nd, but whatever.
I think that's.
Thanksgiving,
Oh, that'd be Thanksgiving week. I don't know. Diane?
we moved it.
We did.
So it's the
I got a
15th. It is the 15th.
Okay, so I'm not crazy.
A little crazy.
Well, yeah.
I mean, my calendar is correct.
You're right. I have an Olin. You're right.
Yes.
Thanks, Ted.
Okay.
We're all gonna sleep better tonight.
It's on top of it.
Okay.
Okay, good evening.
Hi.
Hi. So I'm just gonna share some information with you guys about some of our data around student services, some of the things that we've worked on already this year, and then some of the goals that we would like to work on moving forward. So you can kind of see the numbers in front of you on the slides, and I did put definitions for each of the different things that we have. So individual health plans are for students with health needs that may result in an emergency or need management or monitoring at school. At the time that I put the numbers together, we were at 100 students and growing. So these plans are shared with teachers so that they know how to respond if there's a medical situation. The nurse keeps track of medication and any diagnoses that go along with those health plans. 504 plans are accommodations for students who have a mental or physical disability that impacts life activities. So currently, right now at the elementary level, we have 11. Actually, this was of the 14th of September, so these numbers will continue to grow pretty much throughout the school year. And then the middle school has 16 at this time. Our school psychologist oversees the elementary 504s, and then our counselor at the middle school level oversees the middle school 504s. We also have accommodation plans. So these are really, they have been created for students that may not qualify for an IEP or 504, but just need some additional support. So again, that breakdown between elementary and middle school, we are currently working on those plans to see if there's a better option for those students. Maybe they would qualify for a 504 or IEP. Do we need to dig further into that kind of thing? So those eventually will be phased into other plans moving forward. But then you can kind of see the total as of the 14th of September of what we were working with in terms of 504 or accommodation plans for students. And again, those are split between our school psychologist and our middle school counselor. In terms of our evaluations, so we do evaluations for students with 504s. We have to update those every 3 years, the same as students with IEPs. It's every 3 years we're updating evaluations. Again, so these numbers were current as of the 14th. We had 9 evaluations for students with 504s. We have 12 initial evaluations for special education already in September. So that's a number that the school psychologist and I are kind of working on and working with teachers to talk about the interventions we're doing before they're getting to evaluation. So this is a number that we're still kind of digging into to look to see what we could do differently there. And then our reevaluations this year, we are at 36 currently. So our total amount of evaluations for our school psychologists is 57 so far this year.
57 evaluations, what kind of a workload does that represent?
So she'll do things like give teachers rating scales to kind of like assess student behavior and different things within the classroom. Sometimes she'll have to do academic testing or cognitive testing. So it could go from a very short amount of time, 2 hours, to a span of over like a few chunks in the week. They're seeing students to do the testing.
But you're seeing this as an adequate number for the professional to deal with? Is it heavy, is it
I
light?
think we're on the higher end.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that's why I think it's important to kind of pay attention to that. And then moving forward, when we talk about the goals, just kind of some of the things that we're trying to put in place in order to help, in terms of the workload for evaluation specifically.
Because at the beginning of the year, we still are in the beginning of the year.
Right.
Those numbers just very likely increase,
Correct.
which is going to increase the workload on our staff
Correct.
and make it more difficult to be as effective.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was my question.
Yeah, or the focus really becomes these evaluations. So we're shifting a focus from somewhere else to put it towards the evaluations because these are required by law. So we can't just do an evaluation halfway. Like it has to be fully complete and done with integrity.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
12 initials that's high.
Do we have any baseline data from not like obviously last year or the year before, but like prior
I
to?
could actually get that. I know she kept it. I just didn't bring it forward for this meeting, but I can definitely get that and bring it back next time or share it with you guys too. So as of the 14th, again, this is always changing as well. We had 134 students with IEPs, and you can kind of see the breakdown here. 79 students receive speech and language services, and we have 2 speech pathologists that work together with those 79 students. Our early childhood, so 3 years old to 5th grade IEPs, we have 44 at the time that I put together these numbers. And then 6th grade through 8th grade, we had 44 as well. And this is where we're trying to fill that vacancy of our cross-cat special ed teacher to help support those student numbers in middle school. Deaf or hard of hearing services, we do use CESA 2's audiologist, and we have a DHH teacher here who services 6 students. Our occupational therapy that we just talked about, that we share with Brighton and Paris, she sees 22 students here. And then we have other services, for instance, a special education teacher for the alternate standards. We have a physical therapist, we have vision services. So we have these other combined services that also help support our students with special needs. So far this year, so these are kind of our updates from student services. We have worked on our universal behavior expectations. So building wide, what do our expectations look like for all students in the hallways, on the bus, at recess, and at lunch? And so these were taught across all grade levels in their homerooms, and they're revisited throughout the school year as we need to. But this actually happened within our in-service days. We introduced these on our in-service days, and they've been talked about ever since. We are also doing a recognition of positive behaviors based on respect, responsibility, and safety, so our core values at Salem. And we're really asking teachers to focus on these values to help reiterate these are really what we believe in here at Salem, and this is what we want to reinforce. We gave access to team members to see IEP and 504 paperwork through Skyward. So prior to, I know Diane was printing a lot of things and sending things via email, so it just kind of got like it was a big process. So we just really needed people to be familiar with what that paperwork looked like, because no matter what your role on the team, you need to have access and you need to help provide that support. And again, we took time during in-service to show people where they could access that and what those things meant. I've been working with each special education teacher or case manager in the speech path, so those that run and facilitate our IEP meetings. I'm meeting with each one of them individually before IEP meetings to ensure that they're ready for the meeting, to kind of get a feel for, you know, their style of running IEP meetings, what supports they need from me, and so that's something that we're continuing to work on.
Question.
Yes,
I'm going to talk tonight.
that's okay.
I've been quiet for months. What kind of positive referrals do you use for recognition?
So right now we're working, our principals are gonna start advertising that more. So we're just really, right now it's a Google form where teachers once a month are going to send through a positive referral, and then they just have to fill out a little blurb of how that student showed respect, responsibility, or safety. So there's more to come on that. That just hasn't, we're at the end of the month technically, so we'll be celebrating those. So you guys should see those soon.
Oh, excellent. Look forward to it.
Okay, so another thing that we did is a special education handbook. So just some clarity in the processes that we have here at Salem. So how do we do IEP paperwork and meetings, and how does that look here at Salem? So that all of our case managers have a resource that they can go to. So when they're putting together IEPs or scheduling meetings, who takes care of what. A lot of kudos to Diane for working with me through these processes when I first started, so that we could get everything very much aligned for people, just so that the expectations were very clear when we got started with the school year. And then I'm continuing to add to that handbook too. So as we're learning new things and new things are coming out, that handbook will just keep growing probably. And then right now we're revamping our 504 processes as well. So we're taking a look at how we're utilizing 504 paperwork and evaluations, some things that we can streamline there, but also then what are we going to do with those current accommodation plans for those students that we're seeing need some extra support. So we're problem solving around those things. We brought back the use of a sensory room. With COVID, a lot of the use of that kind of went away. So, you know, as I was starting here, I'm hearing some stories about students who may need a safe place just to calm down and regulate before going back into the classroom. So now we have that space, and, you know, we're using that with students on a daily basis.
Could you describe that space?
Sure.
What it's like?
So, it's like all soft items, so like bean bags. There's a couple of trampolines in there. There's, what else do I have in there? Like just mats, like just a calming space. We have a couple of tents, so like students that just need like a sensory break can go into a tent and just calm and regulate before they go back into the classroom.
Is it
Is
still
it
a
an
blue
open-
room too?
Sorry.
A blue room still then too, on top of it, like we're,
It's not.
okay. Because I know
No.
historically, the blue room was kind of the idea for that
Yeah.
decompression item, yeah.
Yeah, it's not. It's an old classroom, so it was used as a kindergarten classroom before.
That's the answer.
Sorry, yes, there you go.
That's okay. You got ahead of me.
Yeah, and so that, as we continue to move forward with the building renovations and those type of things, that's a space that we want to continue to amp up and work on, so that we have even more materials for students to help with that sensory regulation.
Now, will those rooms be adult monitored while the students are in there?
Yes, every student in there has to be with an adult.
Okay. I've seen problems in the past where timeout spaces and enclosed rooms end up being closets, and then that causes all kinds of problems. But
Right,
this sounds
yeah,
much better.
Yeah, yeah. So adults do have to monitor students using the room.
All right, thank you. I like it.
We are also working on a revision / review of our truancy practices. So the principals and I are really working with the dean as well to do an early kind of intervention. So we have developed a partnership with one of our Salem area deputies. I've also contacted the county to kind of re-up our partnership with the county as well when we're looking into truancy and filing truancy for students. We did send a couple of our administrative assistants and the dean over to work with another attendance clerk in the area to kind of learn from her and get an idea of what reports are beneficial to run, how do we catch students early and often, and then how do we intervene when we're seeing truancy come up. And we are this early in the school year, it's happening already. So we're trying to work on that very early. And then finally, all means all is something that I will constantly talk about and bring forward. But really the way that we're showing this in practice is when we're having a student who's struggling, we're pulling the team together to kind of develop strategies to work with specific students. But it's not just, a special education teacher or just a counselor. It is their homeroom teacher, service providers, counselors, administrators. So we're all coming together to kind of develop some strategies that we can then move forward with to help support all of our students.
With all of these, I don't want to use the word changes, but with all of these items that you've mentioned, how are you finding staff reacting to this? Because in many ways, these are significant and needed changes. How are they reacting?
I think that it's a very positive reaction. I think it's a very collaborative reaction. We're pulling people in for conversations that may or may not have happened before. So, sometimes that can be uncomfortable because it's a difficult conversation, but it's one that we need to have in order to grow. So sometimes I think it's exciting for staff members to do this and understand that our collaboration is so important for student success. And overall, I'm getting a positive feel from the work.
As long as it's a supportive situation, if the
Right.
teachers feel that it's making their teaching more effective, making the school environment either safer or more welcoming, then I can't see anyone really having a problem with that.
Yeah, and that's really what we're trying to do, is to provide that support, to have the difficult conversations, but then also support up. So ensuring that people have the right tools and the right support to be able to move forward.
So with close to 17%, well, pretty much 17% on the nose being IEP and 504s, are you finding it hard? Are the teachers and the staff do they have that sense of overwhelm right now?
I'm not really sure, because yes and no. I do think there is that sense as well. A lot of that does come with the beginning of the year, but we are also in a very unique year coming from COVID and all of the things that, our students have had to go through. So we're kind of still in recovery mode, I think. And so some of that overwhelmness could come from that. I do know that when people are bringing things forward, we are reacting. And so it's something that we are really striving to meet the needs of students and teachers to ensure that we're supporting. So I can tell, at least personally, if I'm hearing we need to maybe problem solve about a specific situation, I'm reacting and going to that team to problem solve.
And I would say, even going back to our finance conversation that very earlier, when I'm seeing numbers like that, that tells me something at tier 1 needs to be. Really, when you think of those numbers, 80% of your population there should be some type of support system for 80%. So when we start to get to these numbers, it alerts me to something, and Christy, there's something systemically we need to do to equip teachers, but also to support students. So
Perhaps to reevaluation? Okay.
our process,
In understanding the inclusion model that's kind of being more represented in school districts now moving forward, you're going to have your regular education teachers being cooperatively teaching with special ed teachers at some point, probably, maybe later in the later grades than the younger grades. But, does some of that evaluation come from the regular ed teacher that might not totally recognize, a situation with a special ed a student in their classroom full-time per se, as to how it used to be where, you'd have separate classrooms for special ed? Do you find that to be part of the, do regular ed teachers have a say in the reevaluation of a 504 or an IEP, is I guess kind of what I'm saying?
Do they have a say? Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Their input is always taken in every evaluation that we're doing.
Sure.
And I think what's happening a lot more is that the gen ed teacher is speaking more with the special education teacher or the case manager of that student. And so if things are coming up, a lot of them, that's kind of their first go, because the nice thing with our special education staff is they're really on specific teams.
Sure.
And so I think that's really helpful in the problem solving too. But then if that's like not enough, or we need to talk more, there are other team members that would then get involved.
Sure.
I would be interested in seeing your quiet room. It sounds interesting. I
welcome you to
need,
go.
Maybe in
I
about
need a
15
quiet
minutes, Jack.
I'll be there right after
Hold
the
on.
meeting. Would it be, where is it located in the school?
It's in the kindergarten hall.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there cookies and chicken nuggets there? You might want to get in.
Well, you want me to leave, you don't want me to stay.
Chris, can I ask a quick question? Like, I mean, Vicki just talked about tier 1, tier 2 interventions. And so you're seeing an increase in some of like this request for an evaluation, right? And it's September 27th, so we're a month into school essentially. Like can you talk us through that process? Like, how does it get to a point in the first month of school that a teacher or there's been an observation that has said, I've exhausted my tier 1 and my tier 2 interventions, and I feel like this is a time for an evaluation?
Sure. So there's a couple of things. The first one is a few of those are kind of carryover from last year. So in order to really look at evaluations, we have to ensure that the students are going through tier 3 intervention and like really specific and focused intervention. So some of those are carryover. Some of those are coming from screening. So we do 3-year-old screenings. So there are some that come through the screening process there. And then like parent request. So there's a couple that come through that process. And so we really work with parents to kind of explain the process of, we really need to try these interventions first, and we need to do these things first to work through that process. But that's kind of how those numbers all came to be. Yep.
And I would say some of it is like some of the teacher, we're doing audits on some of the resources teachers have to be able to do guided groups. Like there really was, I know some schools will say, we don't have resources. There really was kind of a vacuum of resources for teachers within the classroom. So right now we're just trying to really get into their hands just something quickly. So while she's training on differentiated instruction and PLC models, we're able to practice it while kids are, I would say, effectively occupied on an online program. So. And here's
Okay, so we have goals moving forward as well. So we've done a lot of things, but there's still some areas that we would like to work on for future goals. One is developing a very clear multi-level system of support. So this is building why for students needing more supports, maybe socially and behaviorally. So you've probably heard of PBIS. So really incorporating PBIS methods, but then also like what else do we do for those more intensive situations that may be more intensive support. So really building that system wide and having it clear to everybody within the building how that system looks and works and what our supports are for students. I would also like to do more partnering with special education teachers in terms of coaching on strategies. So like we have the paperwork piece of special education, but then we also have an implementation piece. So what does the implementation look like when they're in the classroom, taking minutes and working with students and gen ed teachers on different strategies? The school psychologist, I would love to see this as a more a structured social and behavior interventionist, really. So working on a proactive system to student support. So we would have to take a look at a couple of those things. We do have the additional school psychologist posting. It's very difficult to get applicants right now, but it's posted and out there. But some of these things will have to shift. Those evaluations we talked about, the 504 case management, because realistically, utilizing that position for a very proactive social and behavioral approach would be really ideal. Our middle school counselor, I would love to see more academic and career planning. So ACP is maybe another acronym you've heard of before as well. But really pushing that out, not just into middle school, but there are pieces of academic and career planning that you can do even in the younger years. So having a more systemic building-wide approach to academic and career planning, again, we would have to shift some of that case management away in order to free up some of that space for doing that. So those are some goals.
So with the psychologist, so getting away from 504, focusing more on IEP is what I'm guessing then at that point?
So she would still have to do the evaluation pieces. If we had that additional school psych, that could help support the evaluations that we're seeing right now. But also school psychologists can help support a lot of those interventions, especially the intensive ones.
And that being said, obviously focusing 504 more into IEP, do you feel like some of our IEPs currently could use some more professional look at them per se? And I'm not taking any away from a special ed teacher by any means, but more input from how they're written to include the restrictions for a particular student or the, whatever that might be for that student to make it more effective?
And that's kind of what I want to do with like that previous slide with the coaching with special education teachers, because I'd really like to see more partnering with them to look at the strategies they're using. Paperwork wise, we're compliant in our paperwork. Our paperwork pieces look awesome. But I do want to help support those strategies, especially like, bridging sometimes that gap between special ed and gen ed and really having that inclusive environment. So I'd love to see that more.
A lot of our students that transition over to Central, is there open communication perhaps with some of the special ed department over there about, what they may see consistently? So there's open communication because obviously that's generally from here, that's the next gateway to their educational career, right? So just kind of making sure there's a dialogue between the high school and in the grade school level.
Definitely. So actually, the next slide, that's perfect. Just talking about partnerships. So some of the goals we have, professional services group for school-based mental health services. I'm actually working on that currently, so that's a goal in motion. Just having them come in and talk to us about what their services could potentially provide for students here at Salem. And then Gateway and other communities to work and engage our ACPs, so that academic and career planning. There's so many agencies out there that would love to work with us, support our students in the younger years to help set them up for more of those choices that they'll have in high school and beyond. The continued work with our high schools, to support not only the college and career exploration, but the transition to high schools. So specifically students with IEPs working with their director of special ed in order to have just a really fluid transition and ensure that we're aligning students and preparing them for success in high school. And then continuing to partner with our county resources to focus on our truancy systems. All right. Any other questions before we get to that one?
That was great. Thank you.
Good.
Very elusive. We worked hard.
Fantastic, fantastic.
All 1 month too, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, 2, whatever. You're doing great. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is our annual report. We have to report this annually on seclusion or physical restraint. So you can see the numbers here. Just as a side note, this is for all students that were responsible for providing FAPE to. So all settings, all placements, all of those kind of things are all included within these numbers. So far this year, there's been 0. So I'll report again at this time next year on this year's school year numbers.
Numbers are kind of drastic.
Should we talk about the incidence of physical restraint number?
So I can't really break down the data and go into detail because I have to also maintain student confidentiality.
Totally
So
understand. That's a
very difficult for
huge
me
jump.
to.
Could each incident be caused by one individual with several situations?
This is total incidents.
Okay, so,
Okay.
okay.
And is it possible, I'm just asking this, that because of the differences between these 2 years, these 2 academic years, were data collected in a different way? Were things not reported that should have been reported? I mean, obviously, I'm just asking open-ended questions.
No, I think everything was reported. I
Okay.
mean, I wasn't here, but
No, of course.
I would highly doubt that things weren't reported.
And they didn't
because
miss you
it's-
at Wilmot.
What?
So these are all the students all of the students that we provide services for.
Some of these students may be outplaced in a different setting.
These are all the students.
Yep.
Historically, how much of 2021 was virtual? Were we back by then?
Yeah, that was last school year.
Yeah,
So all year they were,
yeah.
students were here.
Well, most of 2022 as well,
Yeah.
or 2020.
Unless they were chose for, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, yes, here we go. This is an exciting one.
Wake up, you guys. Come on. Who
Are
did
you
you
able to
bring with
click
you
it?
this
Are you
time?
able to control it? Oh, okay. Okay, well.
All right, I'll start, then you can do all the real work as usual. Good evening, good to see you all again. Just for means of reintroduction, so some of you haven't seen us for quite a while, or some of you are watching us at home. I am Nick Kentz, architect and team leader at PRA, the architecture firm that is working on our successful referendum from last April.
Nicole Dryden, also an architect, also at PRA, also on the team, and this has just been a delightful process, so thanks for having us here.
Yeah, so we're going to show you some exciting stuff today and give you a little bit of an update. Construction update is maybe a little bit optimistic. We're not quite ready to build things yet, but soon enough, we're coming.
And I think Myron is coming next month to talk more specifics about numbers and logistics and
Yep.
steel and wood and
Yep, and we're about to hit an
That
important milestone. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's see what's next. Oh, a title slide. So that's what's next. Let's go to the next one.
Nice.
Okay, quick building project update. So again, of course, we passed the referendum back last spring, and we are right now about 2/3.
it's on the next one.
Oh, it's on the next slide. We're making our way very quickly through our design process, and thus far our partnership with Myron has been fantastic. Our work has been going exactly as we had planned it to go and how we expect it to go. It's a great yin-yang push and pull relationship, which is what we want. That's part of that three-legged stool of owner, builder, and architect. So it's always dangerous to have architects and educators alone in a room together. We tend to dream a lot and really great stuff.
Marquez is there.
Yeah, Marquez. Marquez provides a good counterbalance too.
He does.
And we're working really hard to make sure that we're getting really good design out of this process. We're making great environments for our students. A lot of the things that were just discussed are a lot of our discussion topics and how we make this building that was certainly not designed for all of those things that we were just talking about. How do we make these new spaces accommodate them? Even great quiet rooms, even better quiet rooms.
Better quiet rooms.
Yeah.
With nuggets and
Chicken nuggets.
I don't know if we have food service coming in those rooms, but we'll see what we can do. So just to get a quick overview of where we are going, we will be wrapping up our design coming the end of January, which seems like a long ways off, but it'll be here very quickly, and that's when we'll transition into the bidding phase. So we'll actually start to get real hard numbers, and Myron will start moving into actual contract stage and locking things in with an anticipated construction start coming up this spring. Again, seems like a long ways away, but the snow will melt pretty quick, at least we hope it does. And we want to get everybody out of here, so this is a great, complete, finished learning environment by August of 2024.
So this is a little more detail, just to kind of, we talked about a lot of this. Myron did put some kind of, thoughts, preliminary thoughts. I think, in the next couple weeks, we're gonna be working out exact phasing on, when foundations are going in, when demolition's starting, phase 1 versus phase 2. So we're working on defining what'll be those 2 summer phases. So that's the favorite question around the school building is, when is my classroom getting done? So at the very left side, you'll see kind of our design process. So we're, as Nick kind of alluded to, about 2/3 through. We have a package going out to Myron on Friday for our second cost estimate. So we have a series of cost estimates built in as checkpoints, waypoints. So this will be our second of 3, and then there'll be the actual bid, which is obviously the ultimate checkpoint. And that will be when our full document set goes out at the end of January.
Yep.
So, wanted to just talk a little bit about, kind of where we've ended up. It's been a very busy summer. We had, it's kind of crazy to look back on now, actually. We just had a whole team shift and brought on partners and kind of just tried to get through as much information as we could, had some wonderful meetings with the staff here, and really just tried to absorb as much information as possible and figure out exactly what the needs were and get them into the documents. So this is kind of where we've ended up. I know it's just blue blobs on a plan, but just holistically trying to obviously stay true to everything that we've communicated through the referendum process. So the blue is what's kind of getting significantly renovated. So you'll see there's a lot of work kind of up in our kindergarten area, really trying to create that defined primary piece for our 4K and 5K students. Some work up in the middle school, you'll see it's a little more sporadic, so that's more of the STEM focused, exploratory, collaborative pieces. So there's the Discovery Lab, some work to our shop, building in some space for 3D printing, some collaboration spaces, work to our science labs. And then down on the south end, you'll see again kind of that heavier renovation through the 4th and 5th grade area. We've been working really closely to build in a lot of spaces for student services and special education. I think it's been really great to have that voice at the table. And so that really does kind of end up touching the oldest parts of the building, which I think was also another goal of this process. So everything that's kind of up to 1970 is what's heavily getting addressed. So if we move on, the rest is really a series of pretty pictures, so we can talk through kind of where our design is and how everything's looking. Feel free to stop us with questions or comments or...
Where is this?
So we're starting kind of, we want to have a really lovely public image.
Currently a parking lot.
So this is the intersection, our southeast corner. So one of the things that we talked about from the beginning is really trying to have a lovely kind of visual aesthetic from that corner as cost effectively as possible, but still really something that draws people in, feels a little softer, you're not immediately seeing pavement. So right now we're looking at what is, as Nick said, currently a parking lot with the 1916 building that we would be demolishing. So the oldest part of the building is gone. We're seeing a landscaped berm here, so it's kind of doing two things. It's giving us a soft edge, a little bit of pretty and screening, but also building in kind of some boulders and a little more infrastructure, so we have that fortified element protecting our students from cars as well. We know people drive a little quickly over there. Looking at kind of a nice monument sign at the corner, really something acknowledging you're here, really trying to work through wayfinding, making sure that we know what entrance everyone is going to as much as we can and help with that through the process. And then beyond, you're seeing the pop-up of our new addition makerspace. So if you go to the next slide, this is a little closer. It's not landscaped yet. There will not just be barren ground. So you're seeing to the left, the existing overhang on the south side of 4th grade. And just building that out a little more substantially. If you go and look at it today, it's really just skinny little metal columns with downspouts attached. So building that out with some brick and really incorporating it into the full facade. In the center is the pop-up of our South Makerspace. In a couple more slides, we'll see the inside of that. And then kind of a corridor connecting. So again, we're trying to really address some of our ADA issues as gracefully as possible. So if anyone's been on the south side of the building recently, the 4th grade hallway and the business wing hallway are almost at the exact same elevation. But you have to go outside and around the corner to get from one to the other or through and upstairs. So that kind of glass piece that you're seeing is a hallway that connects those two. So we actually have a full loop. Nobody has to go downstairs and upstairs. And then looking at some kind of signage element that would be kind of secondary to the monument sign at the corner, but something kind of a little more subtle and fun there. And then this would be the South outdoor learning space. So really kind of aimed at that 4th, 5th grade age group, but also a great possibility for the daycare to use it or anyone else that's on this side of the building throughout the day.
Just one quick interjection from a design standpoint. One of the challenges we have in buildings of this type that have kind of grown through accretion over a century with addition after addition after addition is we have so many different materials and aesthetics and textures already here on this building. So when you look at what this new facade is, it's not trying to be a radical departure from what's already here. We're trying to take some of the elements that already exist, the materials, the brick, the columns, those piers, and work with them to build kind of a new vocabulary out of the old. So what we don't want to do is add yet another new building or new form to the structure, but rather try to synthesize what is here into a much more cohesive whole.
Exactly. Okay, so now we're moving kind of internal. We're gonna look at all the exterior spaces that are in this presentation first. So I know a big thing was getting rid of the pea gravel in the courtyard. So this is what's going back. We've been working with our landscape architect to kind of come up with this fun play on the lakes in the area. Really try to brand it and have a little bit of a personality to it. So this is all poured safety surfacing, but it does have kind of a fun little abstraction of the 6 different lakes around us. So that's what you're seeing on the left side. We're trying to be as cost effective as possible, using some paint to enliven our kind of, motley crew of precast elements that we have going on in the courtyard. And then you'll see kind of upper right is going to be the south side of the courtyard. So that's where you come into the building. It's closest to the middle school side, building out some tiered seating and an outdoor classroom there. And then below that is really just looking north at the kindergarten wing. So you're seeing kind of all the kindergarten play space as well as a larger expanse of turf. So there would still be the possibility of playing soccer or any other kind of bigger games there. And everything is aggregate free. So no more torn pants legs and no more tracking home small stones.
So if anyone needs any ballast, there'll be a lot of pea gravel on its way out.
Nobody
and then,
does.
Again, sun shading, so we're trying to make this as welcoming and
It looks
soft.
huge. I don't think the area is that big. I think the guy who did this is the same one who does hotel rooms, where he stands back from the door and makes the room look really
Giant suite, yeah. Actually,
We could get a little higher than you might stand sometimes just so you can see the whole thing.
it actually is a pretty
It is
large
a large
space.
So next up is one of our kind of typical kindergarten classrooms. So doing a lot more with the north side, the 5K classrooms, and a little less with the 4K just because they've been done more recently, but still trying to create this unifying element, going with kind of our same slightly modernized color scheme. So we're replacing the red with the green in these areas. So they're getting new cabinets, they're getting large closets that hopefully we're accommodating storage for everyone. We've talked to them about doing a drop of kind of built-in hard surface carpet that's really cleanable for story time, which they were excited about. And otherwise, just kind of making it a fun and inviting classroom space.
Just a note on furniture, that's okay, let's go to the next one. We are just about to begin the furniture selection process, which is a whole kind of design process within the design process. So what is in these images is really just kind of a test fit to see what we can fit into these rooms and how they might lay out. So you'll probably see more about furniture as we go through this further.
And then our 4th and 5th grade classrooms are kind of the same, so they each have a little bit of a unique personality. We're looking at some branding in the hallways to really differentiate. That was a comment that we had from the 4th grade teachers of, no one really knows that we're here down at the end of the building, so trying to really intentionally have places with that. But this would be pretty typical for what we're doing in both the 4th and 5th grade classrooms. So new teaching walls, new cabinets. They really wanted to have as much flexibility as possible with the mobile technology. So we're really providing whiteboards and tack boards and availability to really plug in wherever they need to, and not as much built in these rooms. And then this is the North Discovery Lab. So this is currently the former face room that's now the cooking club room. So this would be redone as kind of a makerspace discovery lab.
Do we care what that means?
I'm looking at Deanna, he's shaking like his hair. We're just gonna pretend we don't hear an alarm going off.
What do we do?
We're not in Florida. Okay.
It goes through its phase, right?
Okay,
Yeah,
It usually goes up.
it goes through its phase.
Yeah.
goes through about 30 seconds, and then stops.
okay.
What is it though?
It's a UPS battery that says it needs to be replaced. And
Okay.
Then there you go, but it's happening installed.
Okay.
Good, super.
So on the north side, kind of one of our middle school improvements, this is the North Discovery Lab, which is meant to be kind of a combo makerspace, project kitchen, and still accommodate cooking club space. So it could accommodate multiple classes. It'll work for that cooking club. I think a lot of the kindergarten teachers were excited about kind of doing a little project kitchen, cooking display type things. So we're working to accommodate that. We have a big L back there of appliances and casework, including a washer and dryer, and are designing this so it could accommodate life skills as well if that's needed for special education. And then in between, you can see our little room that will be housing 3D printers. So it's kind of on display from both sides. And then to the right, talking about doing some built-in shelving with windows to the hall so everyone can see the beautiful things that are being created. And then this is the south makerspace. So we jumped all the way to the opposite side of the building. I probably should have included a key plan. But in those first exterior renderings, this is kind of the white box pop-up that we saw. So this is the addition. So really just kind of an open mini science lab space for 4th and 5th grade. They seem really excited about the possibility of doing seedlings in here and having a lot of light for that, accommodation for doing some kind of more science lab type projects. And this will open into kind of the commons and have a little bit of flow with that, as well as a connection to the gym on that side of the school. And then again, kind of one of our little projects in the middle school area. We've been working with Ryan to kind of look at more collaborative spaces. So we don't have students sitting in the hallways if they want to collaborate or hang out. So this is currently the innovation lab right off of the library. So really just doing everything we can to open it up as much as possible. Because that side of the building is not sprinklered, there's really only so much we can do and make it cost effective still, but we're doing really large double doors that would be on hold open, some windows, and then kind of new finishes, and this would overlook into the library, so it would still have great supervision. And then some finish updates in the primary and intermediate at LMC. So you know the primary library recently moved down to the space kind of on the southern end of the building, kind of that little nexus point. So doing kind of a holistic finish upgrade in there, kind of playing more on that small balcony that's there and doing a little learning stair that comes off of that balcony so it feels a little more connected. Hoping that maybe we have a slide. We'll see.
Oh, we're gonna have a slide.
Opening up between that lower and upper space a little more and having the circulation desk be in that in-between space, so good circulation. And then connecting, so there's another classroom there. So currently the primary is in the upper classroom that used to be the computer lab, and there's another classroom kind of next to it. So incorporating all of those suites of spaces into kind of this library complex. So the green space that you're seeing kind of in the distance there, where it kind of swoops off and you see the triangles, that would be a collaboration space that could be open to the library or closed with sliding panels, and would have our math and reading interventionalists. That's it.
That's great.
It's exciting.
Very exciting.
More to come. A lot of development has gone on thus far, but we're now going to start turning into all the details that make these images come to life. So lots of work yet to do.
Very good.
Looking forward to next summer.
Yeah,
be interesting.
spring.
Yeah, by spring, things will be starting to happen. Yeah.
We'll talk more, because we're probably gonna have to look at our calendars again, just like the high school did Central. So I've already kind of given him a heads up, but he already gave me a heads up that he's probably gonna ask for it first, so.
That's very exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And we're close to having the website with this, so these pictures will be on both. So what we're doing for our strategic plan, we're tagging line is gonna be building for our future. And so when you're in the strategic plan website, you can toggle and it'll immediately send you you can also go into the website on these updates for the project and then vice versa. So letting people see the continuity between what we're doing in the strategic planning with this work, that the conversation is not separate, they're the same thing, and how can all the plans we're doing build for the future we want for Salem, so, yeah.
So they mentioned branding. Has there been any conversation at all about like a unifying Falcon? Like you use the same,
brand?
like you use the same
that's a good
Falcon in
idea.
all of your images, but I feel like school wide there's 30 different. There are
There's a
30
lot of
different
baby
Falcons out there.
falcons, and they're flying or they're nesting.
It's just it's just out of curiosity. I've always it's like one of those little things like yeah.
Yeah, we could certainly.
You get a school contest for the kids.
It's something I don't know.
That has actually been part of our dialogue as we've turned to interior design. How can we use simple things like color or logos like the Falcon to help unify to help unify, but also distinguish where different spaces are within the building, right? I mean, right now it's a little bit of a hodgepodge of different stuff.
As Ted pointed out, you're about to see a presentation with different Falcon on the line, so it's right there. That's a different one. That's a good, okay, we can,
I think that's the one that they use. That's okay.
I think we have the same color.
Yeah, you do.
oh, okay. Whew.
And it's on the logo in the school. But I was just thinking, like, if it's gonna be in brick.
That is- yeah, no, you're right, yeah.
Let's make sure that, whatever one we're using, we're kind of consistent.
We're putting in the brick.
And that we like it.
And then
Yeah.
it conveys what we're looking to
Yeah.
convey.
Good point. Okay, so now we have some decisions you need to make, and they're easy well, they're easy, I feel like.
As soon as you say that, it's
Can't
gonna.
wait.
The State Education Convention.
No.
If you're going to go, I need to know by Friday, because if you don't have to stay the night, if you want to stay the night, we'll get you a room. But if we also need to secure your ticket. So if you want to go, there are other boards going. That's not a pressure. I'm just letting you know, I don't want to not offer it out there and be that new superintendent who doesn't do that. So please, in my update on Friday, I'm going to say, today is the last day, and if you don't reply, I'm just gonna assume you don't wanna go, which is okay. Okay. That's my no, I have to get a commitment. Got it. Next. All right, Shayna needs to know if you would prefer a retreat on the 11th or the 12th, so she needs to secure it. So this one I do need to know. On the 12th, just for your reference, that is a Thursday, and that's in the evening we have the strategic planning team as well. I don't want, if you feel like that would be too long of a date.
I'm open to either one.
That is so far from me. I mean, I would say separate them. If
Okay.
there's already something on the 12th, I would say do it.
How long do you anticipate this?
She will likely do a day. Like you'll have a morning session and then an afternoon session.
It's the entire day.
Yeah,
I see
it's
what
not
you're
just
saying.
or do you prefer half days on each, or you're not gonna be able to get through all the stuff with her in a,
We might have to pay her to come more than one time. I don't know if I can pull off
Yeah,
that from work at all,
That's big.
especially towards the end of the year.
Well, it's technically the beginning of the year.
Well, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
For me, it's kind of one big mess.
One or the
Yeah,
other.
but
Well, Ted,
I would prefer the 11th.
can you do a whole day? Like,
For this?
yeah, like you'll just, okay.
I mean,
Let's find 11 for now, and then we'll go from there. 'Cause
and maybe I can see like she can condense some of the content and maybe we'll,
I mean, can some of the content be sent out earlier to make
Possibly, yeah.
discussion quicker?
yeah?
Well, more thoughtful rather than kind of figuring out the process through the process, I guess you can say.
So it's two parts. One of them is just board like updates that she wants to make sure you have, and then the other one is just drafting your goals for the strategic plan. And it doesn't all have to be like this is your, like, she'll make it work how you want it to work, and so will I.
No, it's very important. I mean,
Yeah.
so I think it's the
An evening perhaps, or after, how would you like me to present this to her?
That's a lot to put on us for this.
what if it was an afternoon, evening?
I mean, that'd be more ideal ultimately,
Okay.
like a
Like a noon to
4 or
2
5?
to-
2 to,
don't put, just you do what you gotta do, and then I'll try and see how much I can make that work. Is the only thing I can say at this point for that time.
okay.
I'm more thinking, do we have, one session on Thursday and one on Wednesday and one on Thursday?
Okay.
And then we risk
So I'm not being able to do both.
because
Yeah.
or
Be the whole
risk not, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. Is it half and half or is it a full day?
I know, like, and it's not all about Ted, but the 12th would be, like, anything after like probably 2 o'clock on the 12th, it would be, I wouldn't be able to make.
Okay.
Just say for the 11th now, and then
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Let's book the 11th. And then, one part can be in the morning and as many people can come as possible. And then same thing with the afternoon or
Okay.
however it is that way.
Okay, that sounds good.
And maybe it is just we pay her more to do more typing, so we read on our own
Okay.
versus, that could cut out
like
some
being
time too.
prepped for it.
Yeah, and maybe that's
Furthermore,
key.
if there's a way, it may be that I'm remote possibly in that situation where I may, again, let's not put too many coals on the fire right now, just set a date and go from there.
Okay, so let's do the full day on the 11th,
Okay.
and we'll make it work.
Okay. And I can have her draft up I just need it, I'll let her draft some, give some templates and ideas out, and then I'm sure she'll,
I mean, yeah, the 11th, if it's a noon to 6 thing. But
And are we talking about being in this building or someplace in the area?
it'll be someplace in the area, because it would become an opens meetings act, so I just have to have it available if other people want to listen in, but you would be fed, and you would be, it would be your meeting for you, but it would be an open meeting. It'll likely be at the high school is where we were considering, just so it's, or the library. Not here though, because we'll have kids in the building. I know, so will the high school, but it'll be.
They're not our kids.
There'll be someone else's
Right,
kids.
there's,
We won't get pulled out for things. Okay, all right, so I'm just gonna have her hold the,
Culvers.
Can't wait.
okay.
Dollars?
I heard it got scratched.
Seems like.
It did? Is it gone?
I heard it got scratched,
Oh.
but I also heard that it's a product situation, so, yeah. Whatever.
The Culvers.
We are
by the
really
Quick Trip.
close, just, this is really like the last slide, so can, one more second, one
Come
more
on,
second.
rally, you guys.
Rally one more time. October 4th, I need, if they want to make it a first meeting where you do a first reading, we would need 3 people there. Otherwise, if you want to continue it just to be a first reading for a few policies, we don't need 3 people. But I currently, obviously, we have got Jack and Steve going to be at the October 4th meeting. If you plan to go, I would need to know tomorrow, because I need to post it it would need to be a actual meeting, not a committee.
Possibly before the next meeting, could we do some updates on some of the building situations from Buildings and Grounds that have been previously kind of discussed?
Okay, yeah.
I don't know if that should be in a closed session meeting, considering some of the details.
Oh, yeah, I'll need to,
Yeah, just
Yeah.
find out, because it might be
Yeah.
good
Yep.
as an update situation.
okay.
Okay.
Otherwise, have it be a committee meeting?
I think that should be a board as a whole type of
Okay.
situation for,
So just see if we need to have a closed session next month.
just for half hour,
Okay.
to kind of give an update probably where we're gonna be at that point with some of that.
Yep. I'll re-put some of that information back in my update on Friday, just. On October 4th, will there be a third board member? I just want to know. There's no pressure. I know last time you said we may want to do a first reading. No worries. Okay, that's just going to be a committee meeting. That's good. Okay, that's the end.
I move to adjourn the meeting at 8:24 PM.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thanks, guys.